Hello, my name is James Kuchel and I'm going to show you a very basic calculator that I built using Minecraft. Here's an overview of the entire processor. In the foreground is the actual calculating unit. The background processor is actually the most complicated part, and that's for giving us a decimal output. In the concrete building to the left we have the actual hub where we do the calculations and have the equivalent to an LCD display. I'm going to turn down the rendering of the game just to allow us to run this video a little bit faster. We're currently on my nice glass viewing platform, which is connected to the calculation hub. We have three decimal inputs from the values 1 to 3 on the left and 1 to 3 on the right. That allows us to perform a calculation to 6. At present all switches are to 0, so our readout is 0. Let's put an input of 1 on the left hand side. The circuitry is quite long, so it takes a while to come through. And we can add to that, let's say 2. And again, after the time delay, we have the solution 3. And we can do calculations accordingly. Essentially all we have is the ability to do addition. So I've now put it on 2 add 2. And we get 4. 2 add 3. Is 5. And let's finally put in the maximum value. So we would have 3 add 3. Giving us a value of 6. Let's take a very quick tour. We have the decimal inputs on the left and the right. These come out of the towers accordingly. They loop around the back of the building, and that's where we can start to do something with them. Now, for the calculation to work, I need the inputs to become binary. So these little gates and these little arches here all combine so that whatever the values I put in, I convert them to binary. Now we put in 3 and 3, so you'll notice the two red lines at the top here for one of my inputs has a binary reading of 1, 1, which is equivalent to 3. And likewise on this input, that we see over, they're also on, so we have an input here of 1, 1. So 3 add 3 is what's going on at the moment. These three columns here are my testing output modules that let me know when I was designing this if I was doing it correctly. So the readout is 110, which equates to 4 add 2, in other words 6, so the output is correct. Let's enter the calculator. The concrete arches and wooden gates are my gates, and they help do the process, which the only way I did that actually was to do some planning on paper first, basically just using logic gates and a little bit of Boolean algebra. If you can get your head around it, it's not too bad. The hardest part was trying to design the next system, which is once we have our three outputs, they're actually reversed here, so it now reads 110 from the right, was how to turn this into a decimal output. This processor has 4 layers: underground, the base layer, second layer, and the roof. I needed to use a control of gates, so depending on what combination of the three outputs it was, I could figure out whether it would turn on each of my 6 values. Now 0 comes out from underneath, 1 comes here, you'll notice it's switched off because the output is not 1. 2 is switched off because the output's not 2. We'll ascend my stairs. 3 and 4 are on this layer, which should also be turned off. And 5 and 6 are on this layer. Now when we get round, I forgot to put up a little sign for these because I knew what I was doing at this point. But you'll notice here, on the left it's switched off, on the right it's switched on. That's because number 6 is on. So now, depending on what my output is, I have either the cables 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 turned on. Somehow I needed to turn that into the equivalent of the reading on an LCD display. Now if you picture the LCD display in your head, essentially it's a figure of 8. And you need to control which of the 8 parts gets switched on or off. So I've got 8 connections here, and because we're on the number 6, only one of those parts would be switched off. So that's this wire here. Now if it was the number 0, it would be the middle part that's switched off. If it was the number 1, just 2 of the lines would be on, the vertical line. Now how I did that was, depending on what my decimal output was, I just built some gates that controlled whether or not we switched on each of these 8 wires. So these 8 wires run the entire length, and depending on what number comes out, varies what gets switched on. So this concrete arch near us, this is the final 6th gate, so you'll notice it's turning on all of the cables apart from this one. If I follow my cables round, the big lattice in front of us, that's actually the rear of our LCD display. So you'll notice some go up to the top, the middle, down the sides, and this structure also goes underneath to control the bottom half of it. See back in the distance there, that was my glass tower, that's where we started the tour. Thank you for watching, hope it was of some interest. Goodbye.